But won't power is a little different. Won't power is my ability to just say no. But I can only say no if I know what I value. So I can only set those boundaries if I know what I value. And I can only find the balance if I have the boundaries in place. Morning. Welcome back to the show, friends. Today we're talking all about balance and boundaries. What are boundaries? What is balance in an unbalanced world, and how to find it? How setting boundaries is how you set yourself up for success, and how to uncover what you want so you know what boundaries to set. So expect to learn the power of saying no. That no can be a complete sentence. That your yes has no value until you learn to say no, and to really dig into what you want. Or better said, what do you want to want? And then we talked to Erica from New Jersey, who has a question about her son, who is suffering from ADHD and wants to manage it more holistically with an animal-based diet. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Radical Health Radio. Today, I'm going to be talking to you all about balance and boundaries. Now, balance is an interesting topic for me because just to be balanced in a world that is somewhat desperately out of balance is an interesting endeavor. And also balance is subjective because what is balanced for me might not be balanced for you because we have different lifestyles, different thought processes, different experiences. We're at different levels in the game, etc. But you know when you are balanced because it's a feeling. Right? You feel it. When you're in balance, you're in flow. And that's ultimately, I think, what we're all seeking. And I think true radical health is balanced. Being healthy isn't about being extreme. It's about being balanced. But again, in a world that is sick and kind of is set up to make you sick, to be healthy, to take a stand for your radical health will often make you look extreme. But that's not what it is about. It's truly about balance. Because to me, balance is flow. Balance is an ease with which you operate. And balance means consistency. And consistency is key. I'm not really concerned with what you can do very unbalanced, but really well for a month or even 6 months. I am concerned with what you can do well in a balanced way for 6 years, because it's the consequence of long-term investments in your habits and your behaviors that are really going to create radical health, not the flash in the pan, very unbalanced way we often go about everything in life, whether it's 30 days to shred or whether it's these other arbitrary things that we throw on challenges that are very unbalanced sometimes. So balance is key, and you want balance. And like I said, it's a feeling. Like, check in with yourself right now. You will know right now where you are balanced and where you are out of balance. Holistically, are you balanced? You'll know it if you are, because you'll probably be feeling great. Life will be good. You'll be grateful. You'll be checked in. All of the things, the systems, the operations will be running smoothly. You'll also probably know if you're not out of balance. And it's probably most likely that most of you listening are not holistically balanced everywhere. And you'll feel that. Maybe it's a lingering anxiety. Maybe it's an extra chattery mind. Maybe it's the fact that you just know you've not been showing up fully for yourself recently because you've lost balance somewhere. And it's simultaneously possible to be really balanced in one area and maybe out of balance in other areas. Like, let's say you are nailing your animal-based diet right now, like crushing it, 10 out of 10, you're killing it. But you're only sleeping 6 hours a night, right? So you could be really balanced over here and out of balance here. So holistically, it's kind of stealing some points away from your overall balance score. The goal is to try and be as well-rounded through as many facets of the 7-step framework as we possibly can. So yeah, we're thinking about how we eat and how we feed ourselves and the removal of processed foods, but also our habits and also the internal qualities and textures of our minds, our relationships, our optimization, and what we're doing for fun and our movement. So we're trying to be as balanced as possible across as many different domains as possible, because that's what's going to create true balance, true sustainability, and that feeling of flow, which should be enjoyable too. If you're not enjoying this process, you could say that's a way of saying you're out of balance too. You get to do this. You get to be healthy. You get to have fun whilst doing it. If it constantly is in this energy of deprivation and, oh, this sucks so much, then we need to reassess and find balance in a slightly different way. You can also be out of balance with healthy behaviors. And the last kind of caveat I want to make here with balance is you can have an unhealthy obsession with health. And I've been there, so you've got to be careful with this one. You might start to fall into the camp of the orthorexic person, the person that is too over-invested with micromanaging every single area of their life and the quantified self and every little bite of food and, the trace this and that and the other. And that can also become healthy too. So I want you to also try and practice balance in your thinking and practice nuance, because I'm saying to be balanced, you need to be balanced in a lot of different areas. And that can feel overwhelming. And you've got to give yourself a little bit of grace too. It's not about being perfect. It's about improving a little bit each day. Like I always say, team 1% better every day. And in most areas, just growing and growing and growing. So if we're seeking balance, because balance is sustainability and it's fun and it's flow, and that is going to ultimately lead us one day to our most radically healthy self, then where does balance come from? Well, I think balance comes from having healthy boundaries. I think balance requires boundaries. So what are boundaries? I think boundaries are knowing what you are saying yes and no to. I think boundaries are the way you show yourself and the world what real self-love is. And I know that's a term that gets thrown around a lot these days. Self-love. And I guess some people think it's a bottle of wine and a bubble bath. And maybe that's part of your self-love practice. But I think what real self-love is having good, rock solid boundaries, so you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Because in our age of abundance, knowing that we evolved in times of scarcity, we have so many options, so many things that we could say yes to. And if you haven't got really clear on what you want and what you value, so what's driving those decisions, you will probably be saying yes to too many things too often. And if your yes has no value until you learn to say no. Your yes has no value until you learn to say no. And just no. No is a complete sentence a lot of the time. Not no and, or no but, or no I need to justify this decision. Just a firm no, where I can exercise my won't power. It's very different than willpower. In fact, I would ideally try to invite you to set yourself up for success as much as possible by removing the need for willpower through smart environmental design, which we'll get into. But won't power is a little different. Won't power is my ability to just say no. But I can only say no if I know what I value. So I can only set those boundaries if I know what I value. And I can only find the balance if I have the boundaries in place. Because if I don't know what to say no to and I start saying yes to everything, then my yes has no value. I'm just a yes man to circumstance. That might be food. Oh, it's Katie's birthday, so we brought in the cake today. And you don't even like cake, Katie, but you say, well, it's free cake, so I'm going to say yes to that. So you say yes to the mouth pleasure. Yes to more doom scrolling on TikTok. Yes to all of these things that are robbing you of your health because you haven't learned to say no. It's not necessarily your fault. Our culture tells us you just say yes. Because saying yes means people are going to like you and you can be more productive and all of these other excuses. But it's an amazing act of self-love again and productivity hack to start saying no to certain things. So the reframe I always think about here is that when you say yes to something, you are not just saying yes to that thing. You're saying yes to everything that comes with it. So let's use a food example again. When you say yes to pizza, you're not just saying yes to a 20-minute, abundance of mouth pleasure of crispy, delicious, hot pizza. You're also saying yes to the fact that pizza flares up your autoimmune condition and gives you an itchy scalp or gives you gut pain. So yeah, here's the surface yes. Gosh, sure, I'll have pizza today. But you're also saying yes to everything that comes with that. That might even be the mental chatter after not showing up for yourself and how you maybe have a tendency to beat yourself up a little bit. Maybe you don't want to go to the social event that you was invited to this Friday night because your values are shifting and you want to get up early and go do your workout. But you say yes to going to the social thing that you know is going to include drinking because you don't want to disappoint your friends. But you didn't just say yes to going there in the fear of disappointing your friends. You said yes to going there, not wanting to be there, resenting the experience while you're there, being peer pressured into having a couple of drinks while you're there. And now you've said yes to everything that comes with that, which is, well, now I didn't get up for my alarm, so I missed my workout. Or maybe I did my workout, but now I feel crappy and now I don't feel good about the workout that I got. So you can very quickly see that a little yes can have many yeses that come with it. And you have to have the awareness of your boundaries enough to know that unless it's a heck yeah, it's a no. Simply put, unless it's like a full body yes, and I'm okay with all of the yeses that come with this, you should start practicing saying no more, because that's protecting your boundaries. That's kind of the line in the sand for me. What do I need? Who do I need to be? What do I get to say no to? So that I can say a heck yeah to the things that really matter to me. But there we're again like, well, what does really matter to me? What do I value? If you listen to a podcast like this, it's likely that you value some consistent themes, like a vibrancy of health and self-development and growth and maybe productivity. But you've got to really reflect here and think about, like, what do I value? If I haven't fleshed that out, I'll just be saying yes to all kinds of stuff, and I'll probably be leaking energy in undesirable areas. And when I start to say no to certain things that are not in congruence with that reality I'm trying to create, I start to make bigger leaps in the areas that really matter to me. And I think that's really important, because it's ultimately about what you want. Not what you want at a surface level, like, well, I want to hit snooze right now because I'm tired, or I want to, stay up late and watch an episode extra of Netflix because the show is really exciting. Not necessarily that surface level what you want, because sometimes that can be infiltrated or hijacked by this hedonic treadmill of all of these choices. So maybe a better way of saying it is, what do you want to want? Do you want to become the kind of person that wants to be excited about their workouts? Do you want to become the kind of person that wants to be able to say no confidently to, I don't want to go and do happy hour anymore or Margarita Mondays because I only do that to please my friends and I hate every minute of it. So what do you want to want is an important question to ask, and it can uncover your values a little bit to show you what you want for your health, what you want for your relationships, what you want for your social life, what do you want for your professional and social development. And setting healthy boundaries and finding balance is much easier when you're smart about your environmental design. And I don't just mean in a very physical standpoint here of setting boundaries around what kind of foods you allow into your home, for example. It's much easier to not eat junk when junk is not around. There's that idea again of removing the need for willpower. Like if I lived in a home where there was cookies and cakes and all of this delicious stuff in every drawer, nook and cranny, I would have a much harder time not eating that because my environment is setting me up for failure. I'm just a human. I'm going to get stressed. I see the food and there's that little emotional brain that's like, oh, that'll feel good. That'll be nice. Just try it. So you know what's much easier is to not enter into that battle at all. That doesn't cross the threshold to my home. It's not food that serves me or my family's health. There's a boundary. So there's one way you can set your environment up for success and honor your boundaries, but also energetic boundaries. What about the boundaries of your friends, your social groups, the people that you spend a lot of time around? There's this idea in the psychological literature of the fifth monkey effect, which essentially means that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Basically said, if you hang around with 4 smokers, you'll be the 5th. If you hang around with 4 really fit people, you'll be the 5th, right? We absorb the values of our environment. We become our environments. In the home, if our environment is junk and just ease and no growth and it's just set up working against us, we become that. If our social environments and my friends are mood hoovers and negatrons and all they do is complain about life and they're very stuck in the victim mentality and all they want to do is play video games, smoke weed or talk crap about the world, then I become that too. And it's very sticky, that stuff. And I don't want that for myself. So there's maybe a boundary that needs to be set. Because maybe what I want to be is a person that's in this world of self-development and growth and health. And if my social environment isn't set up for that, I'm going to have a much harder time acquiring it. So my decision again is to ask, what do I want to want? Who's the kind of person that I want to be? Who's the kind of person that I get to be? And let me go start hanging around with those people. You want to be a fit, healthy person? Where do fit, healthy people hang out? This is probably not downtown at 3 o'clock on a Saturday night, right? So it's about being smart about first uncovering what you want, setting those boundaries, establishing that balance, and also setting yourself up for success by designing your environment. And negativity is very sticky. So you've got to kind of be your own energy hygiene officer. Every day you've kind of got to make a commitment to go out and put a little bit of an invisible energetic hazmat suit on, because you know the world is coming at you with a bunch of negativity. And you've got to let that stuff just slide off. Because unfortunately, our brains are very sticky for negativity. They're hardwired for it. It's like Velcro. It really sticks. So if you're around a bunch of this negativity, it will stick to you unless you make a very concerted effort to allow it to just wash off you, and you intentionally design that around more uplifting people, circumstances, places, and experiences. And look, sometimes setting boundaries is not easy, because I might be pointing at something here that's quite confronting and triggering, because you realize, oh wow, the people I am spending a lot of time around are not helping me. If anything, they've kind of become the drag, the force of drag that's stopping me from moving forward. But what if I love them? What if they're my family? What if they're my friends? This is where it gets tricky to set boundaries. Because it's not that you have to not be friends with these people, but it might be for a certain time I have to set the healthy boundary of loving them from afar. I might need to remove myself from this position because these people for me right now are limiting my growth. And that requires a firm boundary. There's that act of self-love again. There's that act of self kind of rebellion and standing for what I believe in. And it's difficult. So make no mistake about it. Even though balance is a state of flow and ease, to find balance is often very difficult, because the world is not really set up for balance. And neither is really your thinking. We're not very balanced, well-thinking creatures. We have to work very hard at this. But I think with those tips and that awareness and this call to action again of inviting you into this process of finding more balance in your life by setting boundaries, by uncovering what it is that you want, or maybe what it is that you want, you can get a little bit more clear on exercising your won't power. So when you start to say no a little bit more, you're saying hell yeah to the things that really matter, because that's what's really important. And remember, don't be a yes man or woman, because your yes has no value until you learn to say no. So my homework assignment for you is to say no a little bit more this week. Just try it on. Say no to the event. Say no to the calendar. Say no to the things that are eating through your time that you could be reinvesting back into the things that really matter for you, that really allow you to be the kind of person you want to be, or to spend time with the people that you want to spend time with. That is balance. And that balance requires boundaries. So there's my little pep talk today, fam. And now it's time to talk to some callers. First up on the line today is Erica from New Jersey. Hello, Erica. How are you? Are you with us?
I'm great. Great. Thank you. So my son is 11, and he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 7. And I spent a lot of time with researching. I really wanted to prevent any pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So we've tried different types of supplements. We've tried brain targeted supplements. I ended up putting him on Adderall because I did the genetic testing, and that was really the medication that worked. So in my quest to get him off the Adderall, I was wondering if the mood, memory, and brain supplement would be good for ADHD, because I'm thinking brain could help brain.
Look at you, Erica. Good job, mama. Your mommy gut is guiding you well. Yes, that energy of like for like, the organ supports the organ, is something we really believe in. And the short answer is yes, it absolutely can, because there's a lot of components in mood, memory, and brain that are unique compounds that are very, very helpful here. We've got EPA and DHA, the fatty acids that are very helpful for the brain. We even got in that supplement brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like miracle grow for the brain, if you will. We've got something called phosphatidylserine in there, which is a compound that has been shown, even in a peer-reviewed research actually, to slow cognitive decline and enhance memory and cognition. So it's clearly doing something to support the brain. So we absolutely can support the brain by consuming brain. That is, there's no doubt about that in my mind. However, it brings up further questions, right, around all of these other potential stimulating factors in your child's life, the other dietary factors of, because we can add in mood, memory, and brain. I think that's going to be a wonderful solution, and we're going to get you a free bottle of that to support you on this journey, because I think this could be a really cool kind of experiment here, but also assessing holistically what else could be going on. I think we've always got to think about the gut and the brain connection, right? What's going on at the level of the gut? Is there inflammation there? And if there is, what's causing that? Is there still some lingering gluten-containing grains in the diet? It's difficult difficult to feed an 11-year-old, right? When every weekend there's a pizza party or something like that. So talk to me about the more holistic picture here as well for your son and how you're trying to manage it, with other dietary interventions.
Well, I do get a grass-fed beef and pasture-raised chicken delivery once a month.
Beautiful.
So we are very more leaning towards a carnivore, more animal-based diet. Myself more than my son, because like you said, pizza is quick and easy. Pasta's not really in our lives. Majority of the food we eat is organic. I want to say we're about a 90% organic household.
Beautiful.
Fruits, vegetables, mainly a meat-based diet is where we're looking. Any type of grain, the closest thing we get to that would be rice.
Okay,
and
great.
That's maybe 3 or 4 times a month, if anything. So sugar is something that he loves. I try to limit that. Chips, we limit that. Like you said, if it's not around, you're not going to partake. So, and we'll do like a taco night and it's almond flour tortillas. It's not your typical flour or corn. So I try to limit all that. And he's been organic his entire life. Dairy is at a minimum. If he doesn't really drink milk, if anything, it might be ice cream a couple times a month. And cheese is a little bit more prevalent in our lives.
Yeah. Of course, everybody loves a bit of cheese, right? So, Erica, I think you're doing a wonderful job here, honestly. Across the board, like you said, it's very, very difficult with an 11-year-old not to ostracize them from social events and things like that, to be, the weird kid in the corner that can only eat the grapes when everybody else is eating those things. But it sounds like you're doing most of the right things, and what you do most matters most. A couple of things that came up for me there is this awareness, firstly, around sugar. The sugar, the excessive sugar train can definitely potentially be problematic for the brain, with the source of that sugar being more in the packaged and processed food oriented. But it doesn't sound like there's too much of that. So it's not like your son doesn't get any sugar. It's just where do those sugars come from? Are we doing like organic fruits and berries and fruit juices versus gummy bears? It's a very different thing, isn't it? So it's an awareness of sourcing and quality. When you lean on things like chips and you want to have those, I think there's better options available. Thank goodness now in our stores you can find chips that are not cooked in seed oils. There's a couple of brands, like Austin-based Siete brand does a potato chip that's cooked in avocado oil, and there's a couple of other brands. So it's now potentially looking in that kind of level up phase of what we talk about here on the podcast, of looking for these little lingering, potentially injurious things that could be causing this like neuroinflammation, the gut to the brain axis, and also just robbing you of vitality. But again, it's not about being perfect and driving yourself crazy with this stuff, right? It's about consistency. And for the most part, I think you're doing really, really well. With the cheese, I would potentially just do your best to look to make sure it's a raw dairy. If you can find that in your local area, sometimes it can be difficult, but with a little bit of effort or, some research at the local farmer's market or jumping on something like realmilkfinder.com, you can usually find a source of raw milk. And that's actually got some interesting research in terms of its brain and neuroprotective effects because of the unique fatty acid compounds that are found in dairy products. So that could be something to just tweak, because I think at this point it's little bits of tweaks. So firstly, I'm going to bounce it back over to you and see how it feels on the diet front, because I've also got some other lifestyle questions I'm curious about. But dietary wise, with the addition of mood, memory, and brain and just this continued growth process, are you feeling pretty good on that front?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm always looking to make our diet as healthy as possible. I do have the question though. I think the serving size for mood, memory, and brain is 6 capsules. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And with your son taking it, obviously that would be the serving size for a fully grown adult. So what we usually recommend with anything like this, where you're trying a new supplement or you're sprinkling it into the kiddos diet, like I do the beef organs on my son's food, and I sneak it in all different kinds of ways, but it's 1 or 2 pills, it's never the full dose. And it's like kind of like almost like a microdosing protocol to see what you, experience at first. So I would just suggest starting with 1 and seeing how your son responds to that, and seeing if there's any effects, if he notices anything. But as long as everything stays cool and normal, and then let's see what 2 feels like, and just kind of play that experiment. You certainly don't need to jump in at the deep end and do 6, because it's a big dose for a fully developed human. So at the very least, half that dose, but probably just start with 1 or 2 and see how you go from there.
Okay, great. Yeah, he is on the larger size for an 11-year-old. He's about 140 pounds, and he's almost 5'6". So
you could probably
he's
close.
Pretty much adult size.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, with the other stuff, just like other foods that really come to mind in a story like this is choline, and so we've got like egg yolks, and of course with other supplements and things that are just found in animal proteins too, like you said, a meat-based diet anyway, but extra little helping hands from some of the unique organs like liver and kidney. So maybe we'll throw you a free bottle of the beef organs too, and we'll create a nice little stack out of that. And again, more of like a microdosing protocol. So maybe it's a couple mood, memory, and brain, and one of the liver pills, just to make sure that we kind of clear up any nutritional inadequacies, because that could just be manifesting as something that's a little bit more hyperactive, or to clear up the potential irritation that's going on there. But the ADHD itself is this hyperactivity branch of this disorder, as we call it, and it's this inability to focus on tasks for a long time. It seems to have this component related closely to dopamine, and people with ADHD susceptibility of the brain, they kind of need more quicker, faster hits of dopamine. And this now becomes an environmental mismatch because we've got more of that on hand than we've potentially ever had before. So this gets really difficult because I'm curious about things like screen time and what the relationship to that is, and how much of this, let's call it free, cheap, and easy dopamine does your son have access to, because he is not, his kind of proclivities are going to draw him to seeking more of that out, and it kind of becomes a reinforcing pattern where this isn't going to help his ADHD. So it's kind of like dialing that back to a sensible degree, knowing that I'm sure he's got screens for school and all of that stuff. But I'm very curious about the relationship to that and what you guys are playing with there, or are you aware of that at all?
He is very much into watching YouTube and the shorts, video games. Punishment is going to the park.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, if he could spend the whole entire day in front of a screen, he would. And it's a shame because he will go to the park, and I'm able to have access to turn his phone on and off remotely. And he'll say, well, my friends are here. We want to play a video game. I'm like, but you're at the park. Like, do something else. So I try to limit, but it becomes a battle. Yeah. And with the YouTube shorts, that just hits an ADHD kid right at their core, because it's just a few seconds here, a few seconds there. It's constant. Yes. I think it's even worse than watching a TV show. So I try to steer him. If he's going to watch something, can we watch a movie? Like, why don't you watch a documentary? Or, he will look at some educational things, but it's still a screen. Yeah. So I have a tonal. As you've heard of that, it's like a home gym, and he's also involved in Boy Scouts. So right now they're going through a fitness merit badge. Awesome. So I'm trying to get him to walk the dog and walk to and from school, get him to do a light weight workout, get him more motivated. Beautiful. He plays guitar, trying to get him to practice more with that. And it's funny, he brought up one of his friends is an overachiever. I'm like, well, you know what? The overachievers' lives end up becoming a little bit easier because you can get the work done in the beginning and then relax after, whereas you do it the other way around, the procrastinator. So getting him out. Now that the weather's nice in New Jersey, he is out a lot more often. He's at the park. He's with friends. So he's getting more physical activity. Excellent. Okay. I've got a couple of thoughts here. And again, I think you're doing an excellent job here and you're practicing the awareness. I fully agree that this whole like TikTok generation and YouTube shorts are very dopaminergic. And it's like kind of the rat press and the lever. They're so addicting. And especially with the proclivity toward ADHD, it's the perfect storm to kind of strengthen those bonds. So I love that you're trying to educate him to draw these lateral connections that, like with the overachiever analogy there with his friend in school, of making him see that even at this early age at 11, there are consequences to your actions. And that if you keep going down this route, it's going to make certain other things harder. And maybe now there's a conversation of compromise, let's call it, that
if we are in this kind of pattern in our culture of this cheap, excessive dopamine, which is not very good for brains, because dopamine, typically speaking, or ancestrally speaking at least, always followed hard work, and we had to earn that dopamine. Now it's just on demand. That maybe there's a conversation there around how do you earn these things back? You know, like you said, with the chores, and maybe mowing the grass or going outside for a certain amount of day gets you or buys you back more of this time. So at least you're restoring the healthier balance, as opposed to just this dopamine drip that's on demand the whole time. I loved that you said, you know, he's in the scouts and he's learning those things, because in my head I'm thinking, I have ADHD-like tendencies. I was never classically diagnosed. And I think, in a sense, with reframes here, you can kind of see this as a superpower too, if you learn to use it to your advantage. It gives you this very curious brain and an ability to be very driven and go after a lot of different things, but it needs to be constrained, right? And something that was very, very helpful for me was getting outside more, physical activity, martial arts. So to hear that he's in that world already with the, you know, the scouts is very important. I'm always going to be a huge proponent of getting kids into things like martial arts, because it teaches them this level of temperance and self-discipline, and it's just incredibly rewarding too. So there's a bunch of different things you can try, but yeah, always encouraging more outdoor time, more play time, earning a little bit back of that screen time is going to be healthy, because what you don't want to do is become the tyrant parent, right? That is just like the firm line. And it's interesting that this conversation is happening on the back of our boundaries conversation, because there's a boundaries piece here, right? Like, where do I strike the balance as a parent with the healthy boundary to know this stuff isn't helping my child, but not also being such a crazy ruler that they end up resenting me and it's straining my relationship in the home. And I think a lot of that is coming from, you know, just education with your child, and having these hard conversations and telling them that, you know, you're only setting these things up and helping them draw the parallels, and you're setting them up because you care about them and you want them to succeed and win at life, and helping them understand why certain things that we're talking about here really do matter. And then the last point I'll make is maybe more of an obscure one when we're thinking of kids, but I think it's still very valuable, is if he's spending a lot of time, you know, on screens, as most people do today, is to think about investing in some blue light blocking glasses. I think there is a lot of data, and it's just getting richer and richer every day, to show that excessive blue light from screens is actually acting on the dopamine pathways in a not so ideal way, and it's messing with sleep, and it's another low barrier to entry thing that we can put in place that at least minimizes the damage. So let's say you can get some blue light blocking glasses, and there's the compromise. Okay, you can keep your half an hour of evening screen time, but you have to be wearing these glasses, because that's going to help sleep, and that's going to help less of this, you know, excessive blue light potentially destroying dopamine. So I think there's just a couple more things to play with there. But honestly, like I said, Erica, it seems like you're really thinking about all of the right things. And maybe it's just a consequence of dialing a few different levers. And I hope there was, you know, there was some stuff there that you can play with. How are you feeling about that now?
I think everything sounds great. Good idea with the glasses. I thankfully have, like I said, the ability to give him access to and from the internet with his phone and the iPad and things like that. So I can cut things off at a decent time, but still the blue light is damaging. It doesn't matter what time of day you're looking at the phone. So yeah, it's all great things. And good podcast today with the boundaries, because a lot of things I thought of, like, oh, that's right. You know, why should I say yes? You know, you parents, that you pick and choose your battles. Yeah. And to prevent arguments or whatever. So if I had said no to certain things, he wouldn't be on the screen as often. Or, you know, just no, that's it. You're done. So yeah, everything's great. And thanks for the freebies, because I was even thinking about getting the beef organ one as well. Yeah. Because overall, he needs the benefits from that. Yeah. I do have him on some supplements. One thing too about the beef organs is I think that they will interact with his body more so than a typical vitamin will, because sometimes he has an upset stomach.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes he complains about like the aftertaste, where if it's just a beef organ, it's meat. We eat meat already, so why not take advantage? So
yes,
appreciate that big time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're very welcome. It's night and day in terms of the bioavailability of synthetic vitamins and like the Flintstones gummies kind of thing versus our nature's multivitamin in the form of various beef organs. So we're going to be very interested to keep in touch with you. So I'd really like you to follow up. Well, the team will be following up with you to get you those free supplements and, just reporting back in a couple of months' time to see what happened. But thank you for the feedback on the podcast and the awareness around boundaries. As you can see, it's really important. So I appreciate you calling in, Erica. Best of luck on your journey, and your son keep leading from the front because boy is lucky to have you. All right, Fram, that is it today. We just one caller, and we have wrapping it up to kind of discuss and put a bow on this conversation around balance, boundaries, learning to say no so that when you say yes, it really has some value. This is the thought experiment that I want you to think about after this podcast wraps up. What am I saying yes to that I could be saying no to? What does saying no get me to be able to say yes to more fully? And what do I really want in life? Maybe what do I want to want? This is how you're going to uncover this whole process. Be able to set healthier boundaries, because boundaries will enable you to be balanced. Balanced will enable you to do this forever. And doing this forever will result in a radically healthy and fun life. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your awesome questions. We will see you next Wednesday with a fresh new episode. Peace out, fam. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.